Welcome to A Real Shame. It's a twice, sometimes more week show where we review movies from our movie list of shame or movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And normally we come at you with 2 episodes per week, but since it's the season for frights and scares, aka Halloween season, we're coming at you with more horror movies than we normally do. And this week we have some doozies for you.
Doozies.
So what movie are we doing today, Andy?
From 1981, it's the Joe Dante directed The Howling.
The Howling. Let's get into that.
Bill, wake up. There's something out there. Outside, something was howling.
Mm-hmm.
Shh, listen.
The wind.
There's something howling before.
Okay, sure, somebody's dog.
Not like any dog I ever heard.
So The Howling deals with basically, I guess, an investigative journalist, a young woman played by Dee Wallace, who suffers kind of a traumatic incident at the beginning of the film. She's wanting to interview, I guess, like a serial killer or something like that. She sees something that kind of messes her up in the head a little bit. She consults her therapist. He tells her, you know what, you need to go spend some time out at the colony. So she and her husband travel out to, they're in California, they travel out to the colony, and they soon discover that there be werewolves about. And that's not a spoiler because this is a werewolf movie. Yeah. I hope you would know that werewolves show up at some point. But yeah, so basically she and her husband are there with some strange howling creatures.
That's right.
Howling werewolves. This is a movie that neither one of us had seen.
That's right.
It's the first time for these scary movies anyways, these horror movies, that I think I had not seen the movie ahead of time. And I don't really know why that is. I never got around to seeing The Howling until now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat because I've always heard good things about The Howling, and like, you know, it's one of those well known and I think well loved werewolf movies.
Yeah,
and I like werewolf movies, but it was another one that I really just never sat around and saw. So yeah, I don't know why I haven't seen it until now.
But we've seen it now.
And I think we're gonna do like we've been doing this whole time, which is we're gonna talk about our thoughts generally before, and then go into spoilers a little bit later on. So
you want to hit it first or me?
I'll let you go first.
All right. So obviously, as we just said, I mean, I've heard of The Howling plenty. I know that there's plenty of sequels to it. Which we can get into that later. But it's just a movie that has always kind of flown by me. I've never gotten around to seeing it. And I've seen, I think, just about every other Joe Dante movie. I feel like Gremlins 2, Inner Space, The Burbs, one of my favorites. Love it. But never seen The Howling. So I was excited when I sat down to watch it. And I was underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I thought the movie started off well, and I was interested. I was like, oh, what's going to happen to this lady? Because she's going to go interview this serial killer type, Eddie Quist. She's going to go interview this guy. And so I'm like, oh, that's an interesting way to start this movie. Like, what's going to happen, and then kind of what happens with him. And then afterwards, I was all in. I was like, this is going somewhere. And then her therapist is like, you got to go to the colony.
Yeah.
And once she got to the colony, the movie just kind of fell apart for me.
I can tell it. Yeah.
I just didn't. Without getting into spoilers yet, I just didn't really see what it was all about. I didn't really understand. And I was paying attention. It's not like I didn't understand the movie, but I didn't really understand what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And then I thought the ending was a little odd, and so again, we'll talk about the actual ending once we get into the spoilers. But yeah, I was disappointed because I really, really wanted to like this movie, but ultimately I honestly didn't care for it that much. I don't hate it. I don't think it's a terrible, terrible film.
Yeah.
I just didn't really like it all that much.
I'm in the same boat as you. This movie really didn't do a whole bunch for me. I think it relies a lot on the psychological aspect of her confronting Eddie and all that kind of stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I really just didn't need that. I didn't think it really added anything to the story, and like it just wasn't that interesting to me. Like, seeing her kind of come to grips with it and trying to deal with what happened.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think the movie just is. I think it's just okay. I probably wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I'm wondering why it's so well loved now.
Well, I always hear that it's such a great mixture of horror and comedy.
Yeah.
I didn't really see the comedy in it. Some of it I thought was really silly.
Yeah, I think I think silly. I think also like it just comes off as just wacky and not well done, I think. Not even like silly, just kind of like cheesy almost, I think, a little bit.
And again, this doesn't venture into spoiler territory because, as you know, it's a werewolf movie, so there's obviously a werewolf transformation in the movie. I thought the werewolf transformation, went on for like a half an hour. It's so long.
Which one? Oh, there's more than one.
The only one that I really remember is the one where he's in the doctor's office.
Oh, I was thinking about the one by the bonfire.
Well, that was goofy because it was animated pretty much at least at the end when they're we'll get into that, but yeah. But no, the one when he's in the doctor's office, that transformation scene I feel like goes on forever, and it looks really, really goofy to me. I'm not saying the effects work is bad because it's not. It's good, but it's really silly, and he had like weird looking, shifty looking eyes. It looked very cartoonish to me. I wasn't a big fan. I like the way that the werewolves look because they remind me of the Dog Soldiers werewolves.
Yeah.
They're kind of tall and menacing. I like the finished product. The transformation I thought was really, really silly.
Yeah, I thought aspects of the transformation looked really cool. Like whenever you could see like the muzzle kind of growing, would see that. We're going to see that in a later movie we're going to review this week.
Yeah.
But I thought that was well done. But I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
And I liked the character. I liked the way he's looked when you saw that character again. You know what I mean? Without spoiling it.
Yeah. I know
So I like that. I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, there was just for me I think it was just a big letdown, honestly.
Yeah. Same here. So the special effects were done by Rob Bottin, who would go on to do like The Thing and stuff like that. But apparently Rick Baker was originally going to do the effects for this movie, and he left to go work on another werewolf movie, which we'll probably talk about in a later episode this week. But yeah, so he left Rob Bottin. I don't know if it's Bottin or Botin. I don't know the pronunciation. Sorry, Rob. But he left him to do... And again, I think the effects are good, but some of it is just very silly to me. And it reminded me, because Joe Dante directed... in the Twilight Zone movie, he directed the segment of It's a Good Life, and that has some of the same kind of cartoonish, not only effects, I mean, there's no werewolf in that or that segment of the movie, but the Dutch angles and like the kind of colorful light behind them and stuff like that. Joe Dante has done that in more than one movie. Specifically, the one that I recalled was the Twilight Zone segment that he did, It's a Good Life.
Reminds me of Creepshow a lot, too.
Yes. Yes, thank you. I was thinking the exact same thing, and I meant to mention that. I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me of Creepshow as well. And I'm not a huge fan of that whole kind of style or that technique. Before we get into spoilers and Rotten Tomato scores or anything, we'll just talk about the cast. Dee Wallace is the main character, the main actress. She's been in a crap load of movies and a crap load of horror films. Sometimes she's billed as Dee Wallace Stone because she was married to a guy named Christopher Stone, who's also in The Howling, and he actually plays her husband in The Howling. So it's appropriate. She's also, if you don't know her by name, she was Elliot's mom in E.T. And she and her husband Christopher Stone also were in Cujo a couple of years after this. Also stars Dennis Dugan, Patrick McNee, who was John Steed on the television show The Avengers. He plays her therapist that sends her to the colony. Kevin McCarthy, good old Kevin McCarthy from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if you watched our episode on Road Racers, he's in that, watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers in the movie theater. It's got Slim Pickens, the guy who drops from a bomb in Dr. Strangelove. Dick Miller, what would a Joe Dante movie be without Mr. Dick Miller? He plays the bookstore owner in this, and he's awesome. I love Dick Miller. Who doesn't love Dick Miller?
I didn't get those appraised yet.
Noble Willingham, Kenna Toby, and Mr. John Carradine, who we've mentioned more than once on the show, never really turned down anything. He was later on in life. So also has a couple of cameos. It's got several cameos, but two main ones that I want to mention was John Sayles, who co-wrote the screenplay, plays the morgue attendant.
Okay.
And I thought this might be a little bit of a tribute to Rosemary's Baby, where she's in the phone booth at the beginning of the film, and there's a guy with his back to the phone booth.
I pointed that out to Kirby.
In Rosemary's Baby, the guy with his back to the phone booth is William Castle, who was the producer of the film. In this, it is none other than Roger Corman, Mr. Schlockmeister himself. He's the guy waiting to use the phone when Dee Wallace is talking to her news station back at the desk. So it spawned 7 sequels. Seven sequels. It's 69% fresh.
Too high.
58% audience score. Gene Siskel liked it. He gave it thumbs up. Roger Ebert did not like it. He gave it thumbs down. And Leonard Maltin gives it 3 stars.
Wow.
So now we can talk about spoilers.
Let's talk about spoilers. I got a big Dawn of the Dead vibe from the beginning of this movie with like the television reports. And, and taking place at the TV station. Not necessarily the remake, but the original. Like, it felt very like, let's do Dawn of the Dead, but with werewolves. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, I think I've seen this before, kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I didn't even think about that, but now that you say that,
and then like like I said, I wasn't a big fan of the psychological turmoil. I think the dream about the old man on fire was pretty hilarious, and I don't remember much about it. I just have that in my notes. That's why I'm calling that out. The werewolf transformations we talked about. So we have one where her husband Christopher Stone is seduced by the elemental lady,
some lady,
whatever her name is, and then they start making out in the woods, and they both have sex and turn into werewolves. And I thought that was pretty hilarious.
I mean, I thought that was interesting, actually. Like, it's different. I mean, you don't see that every day. But then towards the end, it's just animated. Like, and I heard that was for budgetary reasons.
I'm sure it was.
They just were like, all right, we got to do this, and so here we'll just animate it.
And they kind of like Blade 2, the vampire or the werewolves in this movie, which is like they were trying to like this whole colony, I guess, led by the psych guy. The psychologist. Basically, they're trying to learn to live without killing people, and like they were like raising cattle and all that kind of stuff, which made me think of like Blade 2 when they had like humans in that like kind of blood bank kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
And stuff like that. But I guess that's kind of what he was doing to try to get her to go to the colony. I guess he was trying to convert her.
So, okay, that's my biggest problem with the movie. I didn't and I wrote down what's it all about. I didn't understand why he sent her to the colony. He tells her, you need to go and relax so then you can remember what it was that you saw or whatever. But I was like, is he trying to convert her? Is he not? Because they attack her husband first and he gets turned into the werewolf. And then he just kind of almost drops out of sight. Because I was like, what the hell happened to her husband? Even when they have that big confrontation at the barn or whatever, he's nowhere to be found. Well, then later, as they're driving away, she shoots a werewolf and it turns into her husband in the back seat. And I was like, oh, there's her husband. And 30 minutes later.
And you that said, you can shoot the werewolves anywhere and they die. Yeah. Like they're getting hit like in the gut or the leg and they would just like die instantly, right?
Right. Is it do you have to shoot them in the heart? Is it like vampires?
I would assume you have to shoot in the heart.
I don't know.
I would assume it'd be like any kind of living creature where you'd have to like maim it like some major organ or something for it to die or whatever.
I guess
they never established the werewolf rules. Like they don't turn into they seem like they can transform on command or whenever they want.
They could transform on command, but that one transformation that he does in the doctor's office takes forever. If I was Dee Wallace, I would have just ran away while he was doing that because it literally takes him like 15 minutes to go through it all, and she just stands there patiently the whole time. Then finally, when he's done, she takes acid and throws it on it. I would have been gone long before then. I would have been like, I'm out of here.
Oh, I like that when we see him again, have his face is burned off.
Yeah.
But when he tries to transform into the werewolf again, the other
so first he gives him the gun back, first of all. He's like, oh, here, you can have it. And then he's like, all right, now I'm going to transfer. Just wait 15 minutes and I'm going to transform into a werewolf. And he gets like 2 seconds into it. And the guy's like, blam. Yeah. I was like, what is this guy, an idiot?
I guess he didn't think that he had silver bullets.
I guess not.
But I think that's the thing
true.
in this movie.
That's true,
right?
But I thought that was so silly. But yeah, I didn't see the point. I didn't get... Why did he send her to the colony? Because I mean, I assume it is to convert her, But I think you could probably tell by looking at her that she's kind of crazy, in a way. Like, I mean, she's not the person that I would be sending to the colony to try and convert. Maybe her husband, but not her.
But she does get
maybe that was ultimately.
But she does get converted.
Yeah, but just because she gets scratched on the way out. And so that ending, that leads us into the ending. I thought the ending was bizarre, and I guess Joe Dante was trying to make a statement about our complacency and our just, we see things on TV, we're desensitized or whatever. But I was like, why? Like, what? The movie to me was not any kind of message movie. I mean, it's a movie about werewolves, but then at the end, he just kind of threw that in, and then we get to watch a burger cook over the end credits. Because if you do sit through the end credits, a burger cooks on the grill. She says she wants it rare. That guy cooks the shit out of it. That's nowhere near rare. And then after that, it shows a clip from the old Wolfman movie with Lon Chaney Jr. So. Yeah, there is technically a post-credit sequence, but it's just a clip from the old werewolf movie, which I probably would have rather watched than this.
Eat your shorts, Marvel Films.
Yeah,
I like the one thing where the person pulls up and he's like, "None of us are rich enough to drive a Miata." I'm like, "Oh, a Miata's a rich person." In the 80s.
Yeah, but no, I did kind of like the Dennis Dugan character, and I didn't write his girlfriend's name down, but that's the lady that gets attacked like in the cabin and chops his hand off or whatever. I kind of like them kind of investigating things. Apparently I'm a sucker for people investigating stuff because in all these horror movies, my favorite parts are when they're kind of trying to get to the bottom of things and investigating. But I did kind of like that, and that's where they meet up with Dick Miller, who's the bookstore owner, and they get books on werewolves and stuff like that. I found all that kind of interesting, but all that stuff with the colony I didn't find interesting, and I didn't really see the point of it. And so you've got the weird kind of witch lady that seduces her husband. I guess it's her brother.
Yeah, so weird. He's the guy who gets his arm chopped off.
He looks kind of like he looked kind of like Kyle Mooney from SNL. I don't know why I get some Kyle Mooney vibes. If you know who that is, he's in Brigsby Bear too. That guy.
Oh yeah.
I kind of got Kyle Mooney vibes. If they remake The Howling, which I think they're talking about too. Of course, these days they're talking about remaking everything.
Yeah.
But if they remake The Howling, the Kyle Mooney can play that part because I thought he looked like the guy a little bit.
Well, that's all I have on that.
I just again, I think we both agree. It's kind of underwhelming, especially for being such a beloved horror film. Not the worst movie in the world, and you guys out there probably like it a lot better than we do, but this is not a movie that I want to revisit anytime soon.
I just think it's just cheesy and campy in all the wrong ways. Like, not to spoil the movie we're going to do next, but I think that movie balances it a lot better than this one does. Yeah. So I don't think I don't know if it was trying to be campy, but it kind of came off as cheesy and campy,
Yeah, I agree, and not in the right way, so you're right.
All right, well, that was our review on The Howling. If you feel differently and you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment below. Let us know what you're talking about. We also check emails for viewer questions and suggestions and viewers' comments, realshame@gmail.com. So shoot us one of those. That would be super cool. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, because that really does help. And stay tuned as we look at another werewolf movie that I haven't seen. And that movie is
An American Werewolf in London.
So we'll see you Wednesday, guys, with American Werewolf in London.